Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, beneath the quiet canopy of stars and within the sanctuary of your own space, you are invited to travel with me, not through bustling cities or noisy roads, but through time, across ancient lands and timeless traditions. It is a journey of silence and serenity, of roots and leaves, petals and potions, of wisdom whispered across generations. As you gently close your eyes and take a long, full breath, let the day unravel behind you. Feel the soft embrace of stillness settle over your body and soul. You are now entering the tranquil world of ancient herbal medicine, a world where every flower held a story, every root was a remedy, and every leaf a symbol of connection between humanity and the earth. This is not a lecture, nor a history lesson. It is a peaceful, immersive experience, a lullaby for the mind, a soft river of remembrance carrying you to a place where healing and nature were never separate. Let your body find comfort. Let your thoughts float. Let these words become the gentle wind guiding you through a garden of memory. Picture a time long ago, before modern machines and electric lights, when the night sky was the only map and the forest was a living pharmacy. Imagine early humans, their lives woven tightly into the patterns of nature. They observed the animals, noticed which berries birds avoided, and which herbs deer returned to when wounded. Through these quiet observations and deep intuition, they began to understand the silent language of the plants. In caves and forests, on plains and along rivers, humans began to whisper to the earth, and the earth responded with gifts. Bark that soothed pain, leaves that calmed the spirit, roots that brought sleep, flowers that brightened the heart. Each plant became a sacred message, each remedy a story passed from healer to healer, mother to daughter, elder to apprentice. The earliest shamans, wrapped in animal skins and mystery, used herbs in ritual and reverence. They danced around fires under the full moon, calling on the spirits of nature to heal their people. They believed each plant had a spirit, a guardian essence that could be awakened through prayer, offering, and intention. Medicine was not just physical, it was spiritual, emotional, and sacred. Now, drift with me to the banks of the Nile River, where the ancient Egyptians cultivated fragrant herbs in lush temple gardens. In these sacred spaces, papyrus scrolls were inked with detailed knowledge of medicinal plants: aloe for wounds, garlic for vitality, honey for preservation. The goddess Isis, protector of healing, was often depicted offering herbal elixirs to the sick. Physicians were priest healers, blending science with spirituality. Their treatments were wrapped in ritual, infused with song, sacred symbols, and oils pressed from sacred blooms. Cross the sands to the lands of Mesopotamia. In clay tablets buried for millennia beneath the soil, we find the roots of herbal prescriptions that echo through time. In Sumer and Babylon, healers recorded treatments using myrrh, cedar, licorice, and juniper. These ancient doctors believed in balance, in the harmony of the body's energies and the natural cycles of life. The garden was a place of learning, a living library, where every plant offered a verse of wisdom. Now float further east to the mountains and valleys of ancient India, where the healing science of Ayurveda was born. In ancient Vedic texts, the rishis, sages and seers, wrote of herbs that balanced the doshas: vata, pitta, and kapha. Turmeric for inflammation, ashwagandha for strength, holy basil for clarity. These were not simply ingredients, they were energetic allies. In Ayurveda, the healer was a guide, aligning the body with the rhythms of the universe. The breeze shifts, and now you find yourself in a mist-covered forest in ancient China. Here, the Taoist healers studied the way of nature, the Tao, and built an intricate herbal system around the balance of yin and yang. Ginseng to energize, licorice to harmonize, reishi mushrooms to extend life. The herbal scrolls were filled with poetry, describing the spirit of each plant, its nature, its direction, and its harmony with the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Medicine was seen as an art, a dance with nature's ever-changing song. Journey with me now across the oceans to the heart of the Americas, where the indigenous peoples honored the land as mother and the plants as family. The shamans and curanderos used sage for purification, tobacco for prayer, corn silk for the kidneys, and willow bark for pain. Healing was deeply communal, guided by stories, songs, and ceremonies. The drumbeat mimicked the heartbeat of the earth. Medicine wheels were used to understand the cycles of life, and plant medicine was offered in gratitude, never taken in greed. In Europe, the wise women of the villages, often called herbalists, midwives, or cunning folk, tended their gardens with reverence. Lavender for rest, chamomile for babies, yarrow for wounds, nettle for strength. In quiet corners of monasteries, monks grew herb gardens and wrote manuscripts filled with herbal wisdom. Hildegard of Bingen, a Benedictine abbess, wrote of plants not only as physical remedies, but as carriers of divine energy. To these healers, herbal medicine was not folklore, it was a way of life. Feel now how all these traditions weave together like a tapestry, east and west, north and south, every culture, every land, every people turning to the earth for healing. Though the plants may have been different, the heart of herbal medicine remained the same: to live in harmony with nature, to trust in its wisdom, and to honor the sacred bond between life and the land. As you rest here in this soft space between waking and dreaming, know that you are held in that same lineage. The breath you take now carries the memory of eucalyptus groves and cedar forests. The heartbeat that pulses in your chest is echoed in the sap that rises in trees each spring. You are connected. You are safe. You are resting in the ancient arms of the earth. Tonight, allow these ancient stories to drift around you like the fragrance of herbs in the wind. Let lavender soothe your thoughts. Let chamomile calm your heart. Let sandalwood ground your spirit. You are surrounded by the wisdom of the healers who came before, by the spirit of the herbalists, the shamans, the midwives, and the wise ones who spoke with the plants and listened in return. You are part of this story now. Breathe in slowly and release. Feel your body become lighter. Let the rhythm of this story lull you further into stillness. The past and the present are one in this moment. And now, as the journey begins, the path opens gently before you. With every step forward in this story, you walk alongside those who once gathered herbs beneath moonlight, who whispered gratitude into the soil, and who believed that nature holds the keys to healing. So close your eyes and let us begin. Long before cities rose from stone, before temples touched the skies, before words danced across parchment or clay tablets, there were plants. Silent, patient, powerful. The first companions of humanity. Long before language shaped thought, there were wild herbs that whispered their secrets to those who would listen. The earliest humans were wanderers, their feet bare against the living earth. They roamed the forests, the savannas, the mountain slopes and open plains, not as conquerors, but as part of nature's intricate web. Each day was a search for food, for warmth, for shelter. But woven into that search was something deeper, something sacred, healing. Imagine them, clothed in hides, walking beneath towering trees. One child grazes a hand on stinging nettle and cries out. An elder, remembering the soft touch of plantain leaves, gently applies it to soothe the sting. Over time, the connections grow stronger. Someone drinks from a pool and finds their belly twisting in pain. Another remembers the bitter roots chewed by deer nearby, and a remedy is discovered. A woman suffers from fever. Her kin brews a bark tea, willow perhaps, and the heat within her body begins to subside. From these first humble observations, a kind of dialogue began. Not with words, but with senses, with sight, touch, taste, and intuition. It was not knowledge from books, but from presence, from watching how wounded animals healed themselves, from listening to the rustle of leaves, from noting how certain plants grew only near water, or only under the shade of other trees. In caves and shelters from the highlands of Ethiopia to the valleys of the Pyrenees, archaeologists have uncovered remains of herbs nestled alongside human bones. In some cases, multiple types of medicinal plants, yarrow, ephedra, chamomile, were found buried with the dead. What does this tell us? That even tens of thousands of years ago, people believed in the power of plants not just for the living, but for the journey beyond. One of the most remarkable discoveries came in the Shanidar cave, nestled in the Zagros Mountains of what is now northern Iraq. There, the ancient bones of a Neanderthal man were found lying in a shallow grave. Around him, thick traces of pollen, yarrow, marshmallow root, cornflower, not wind-blown, not scattered by chance. Deliberate, placed there, it seems, with love and knowledge, a gesture of healing, a ritual of farewell, a sign that even our ancient cousins, the Neanderthals, may have practiced an early form of herbal medicine. Close your eyes and picture that moment. A fire flickering in the darkness of a cave, casting orange shadows across the stone. A group gathered around their fallen kin. An elder woman, perhaps the healer of the tribe, crushes blossoms between her calloused fingers. She murmurs a prayer into the smoke. She places the herbs gently on the chest of the departed, whispering to the spirit of the plant, asking it to guide and comfort the one who now walks the other world. This is where herbal medicine began, not in laboratories or sterile rooms, but in the tender hands of those who lived in rhythm with the land. The first herbalists were not doctors as we know them today. They were watchers, dreamers, listeners. They had no formal education, no titles. Their school was the forest. Their library was the field. Their mentors were the wind, the stars, and the pulse of the earth. The early healers were often shamans, the mystics of their communities. They were the ones who entered altered states of consciousness, sometimes through dance, sometimes through dream, sometimes through the smoke of sacred herbs. Through these experiences, they claimed to speak with the spirits of plants to learn their secrets directly. Every plant had a spirit, they said, a voice, a personality. Some were kind and calming. Others were fierce and needed to be approached with caution and respect. It was not just chemistry, it was relationship. There were herbs for fever, for childbirth, for hunger, for heartbreak, leaves to staunch bleeding, roots to dull pain, flowers to calm a restless child, barks that brought clarity or dreams. Some herbs were used to prepare warriors for battle, others to help mourners find peace. The knowledge was passed on not in books, but in stories and songs, around fires, in ritual, in quiet, sacred spaces at dawn when the plants were still moist with dew. Can you hear it? That ancient song, carried by a grandmother's voice across time. Soft, steady, filled with memory. A melody made of moss and wind and river. A song to the plants. A song of healing. Close your eyes and see the forest clearing, deep and hushed. The trees stand tall like old sentinels. In the center, a fire burns low. Its embers glow like sleeping suns. A ring of stones surrounds it. On one side, a woman kneels. Her hands are stained with the juice of crushed leaves. Her eyes are closed. She murmurs to the plant she holds, asking it for help. She places a poultice on the forehead of a sleeping child. The child, once feverish and restless, breathes steadily now. Nearby, another woman grinds roots into powder with a stone bowl. She hums. The melody is ancient, but the meaning is clear. Gratitude. In these quiet moments, beneath stars, under trees, beside rivers, and within caves, the roots of herbal medicine took hold, not just in body, but in spirit. It was not separate from life. It was life. Herbal knowledge was carried like a treasure across generations. It wasn't taught. It was lived. The healer's apprentice would follow their elder into the forest at first light. They would learn the feel of a leaf's underside, the taste of bark, the scent of blooming herbs. They would learn to gather only what was needed, and to always leave a gift in return. A strand of hair, a whispered word, a prayer. To take from the earth was never an act of greed. It was communion. And so the lineage began, woven into human memory, stored not just in minds, but in hearts and hands. This was not only survival, it was ceremony. It was reverence. Even now, the forest remembers. Even now, as you listen, the story of the first healers continues in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the quiet parts of your spirit that still long for the touch of nature. You are part of this legacy. You are connected to the ancient ones who once knelt at the feet of trees and whispered into the leaves. You are safe in their memory. Let the echoes of their wisdom wash over you like cool river water. Let their songs settle into your bones like the warmth of the morning sun. Let their herbs bloom in your imagination, fragrant and full of life. Rest here for a while longer. Feel the steady rhythm of the old world around you, the steady rustle of grasses, the crackle of fire, the distant hoot of an owl. the scent of pine and sage. Let it all guide you deeper into rest. And now, when you're ready, we will walk slowly from this forest clearing into the next chapter of our journey through time. Let us go with gratitude. Let us go with quiet hearts. Let us go remembering. Close your eyes and picture that moment. A fire flickering in the darkness of a cave, casting orange shadows across the stone. A group gathered around their fallen kin. An elder woman, perhaps the healer of the tribe, crushes blossoms between her calloused fingers. She murmurs a prayer into the smoke. She places the herbs gently on the chest of the departed, whispering to the spirit of the plant, asking it to guide and comfort the one who now walks the other world. This is where herbal medicine began, not in laboratories or sterile rooms, but in the tender hands of those who lived in rhythm with the land. The first herbalists were not doctors as we know them today. They were watchers, dreamers, listeners. They had no formal education, no titles. Their school was the forest. Their library was the field. Their mentors were the wind, the stars, and the pulse of the earth. The early healers were often shamans, the mystics of their communities. They were the ones who entered altered states of consciousness, sometimes through dance, sometimes through dream, sometimes through the smoke of sacred herbs. Through these experiences, they claimed to speak with the spirits of plants, to learn their secrets directly. Every plant had a spirit, they said, a voice, a personality. Some were kind and calming. Others were fierce and needed to be approached with caution and respect. It was not just chemistry, it was relationship. There were herbs for fever, for childbirth, for hunger, for heartbreak. Leaves to staunch bleeding, roots to dull pain, flowers to calm a restless child, barks that brought clarity or dreams. Some herbs were used to prepare warriors for battle, others to help mourners find peace. The knowledge was passed on not in books, but in stories and songs, around fires, in ritual, in quiet, sacred spaces at dawn when the plants were still moist with dew. Can you hear it? That ancient song, carried by a grandmother's voice across time, soft, steady, filled with memory. A melody made of moss and wind and river. A song to the plants. A song of healing. Close your eyes and see the forest clearing, deep and hushed. The trees stand tall like old sentinels. In the center, a fire burns low. Its embers glow like sleeping suns. A ring of stones surrounds it. On one side, a woman kneels. Her hands are stained with the juice of crushed leaves. Her eyes are closed. She murmurs to the plant she holds, asking it for help. She places a poultice on the forehead of a sleeping child. The child, once feverish and restless, breathes steadily now. Nearby, another woman grinds roots into powder with a stone bowl. She hums. The melody is ancient, but the meaning is clear. Gratitude. In these quiet moments, beneath stars, under trees, beside rivers, and within caves, the roots of herbal medicine took hold. Not just in body, but in spirit. It was not separate from life. It was life. Herbal knowledge was carried like a treasure across generations. It wasn't taught. It was lived. The healer's apprentice would follow their elder into the forest at first light. They would learn the feel of a leaf's underside, the taste of bark, the scent of blooming herbs. They would learn to gather only what was needed and to always leave a gift in return. A strand of hair, a whispered word, a prayer. To take from the earth was never an act of greed. It was communion. And so the lineage began, woven into human memory, stored not just in minds, but in hearts and hands. This was not only survival, it was ceremony, it was reverence. Even now the forest remembers. Even now, as you listen, the story of the first healers continues in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the quiet parts of your spirit that still long for the touch of nature. You are part of this legacy. You are connected to the ancient ones who once knelt at the feet of trees and whispered into the leaves. You are safe in their memory. Let the echoes of their wisdom wash over you like cool river water. Let their songs settle into your bones like the warmth of the morning sun. Let their herbs bloom in your imagination, fragrant and full of life. Rest here for a while longer. Feel the steady rhythm of the old world around you, the steady rustle of grasses, the crackle of fire, the distant hoot of an owl, the scent of pine and sage. Let it all guide you deeper into rest. And now, when you're ready, we will walk slowly from this forest clearing into the next chapter of our journey through time. Let us go with gratitude. Let us go with quiet hearts. Let us go remembering. Let us now drift eastward, across the sands of time, to a place cradled by two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Here, in the fertile cradle of civilization known as Mesopotamia, some of the world's earliest written records began to blossom. And within those early records, etched carefully into tablets of soft clay, was the story of herbal healing. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this land thousands of years ago. The sun rises over rows of wheat swaying gently in the breeze. Irrigation canals shimmer in the morning light. Date palms reach skyward. In shaded courtyards and fragrant gardens, healers and scribes begin their work for the day. This is Sumer, one of the oldest known civilizations, and it is here, more than 4,000 years ago, that the wisdom of the plant world began to take written form. The Sumerians, careful observers of nature and pioneers of record-keeping, used cuneiform script, wedge-shaped marks pressed into soft clay, to record their knowledge. These were not just marks. They were messages, instructions, incantations, living echoes of human interaction with the green world. On these tablets, we find the names of over 250 healing plants. Coriander, used to soothe digestion. Licorice root, sweet and cooling, for coughs and fatigue. Mint, invigorating and aromatic, to clear the breath and calm the nerves. Myrrh, resin of the sacred tree, used to purify, preserve, and anoint. But these tablets were far more than lists of ingredients. They were repositories of ritual. Recipes often began with prayers or invocations, aligning the treatment with the spiritual world. Healing was not simply about the body. It was about the spirit, the gods, the unseen energies that danced through the land. A typical remedy might read, grind coriander and date syrup into a paste. Place upon the brow at twilight. Speak the name of the moon goddess. Wait for the cool of night. Every treatment was a story. Every plant a character. Every healer a bridge between realms. The Babylonian healers who followed the Sumerians refined this knowledge further. They believed the cause of illness could be physical, but also magical or divine. So, they used a blend of practical and mystical remedies. An herbal poultice might be wrapped in prayer. A tonic might be offered with an incantation. Juniper berries, frankincense, mustard seeds. These were not only for the body, but for the soul. Imagine walking into a Mesopotamian healing house. Stone floors warmed by the sun, clay vessels lined in neat rows, each holding a precious powder or oil. The scent of crushed herbs, cinnamon, cumin, hyssop, lingers in the air. A healer dips their fingers into a jar and places a bit of balm on a child's temple. Soft words follow. A prayer is whispered. The body is tended. The spirit is honored. Now let us float gently down the Euphrates, through time and across golden deserts, into the heart of another magnificent culture, ancient Egypt. The Nile flows steady and sure, bringing life to the valley, carrying with it silt, water, and wisdom. The banks are alive with papyrus reeds and flowering herbs. The scent of basil and lotus drifts upward in the midday heat. And here, in this land of pyramids and pharaohs, healing becomes both art and devotion. Egyptian medicine was deeply advanced and deeply sacred. Let us step softly into the world of the Ebers Papyrus. This long scroll, dating back to around 1500 BCE, is one of the oldest medical documents known to us. Carefully inked in hieratic script, it is over 100 pages long and contains more than 700 remedies, most of them herbal. In its faded lines, we read of garlic used for stamina and strength. It was believed to fortify laborers and warriors, to cleanse the blood and fuel the heart. Honey, golden and eternal, was used to dress wounds and fight infection. Its sweetness was seen as sacred. Aloe vera, cooling and smooth, was applied to burns and skin irritations, its gel-like interior offering relief from the heat of the sun. Black cumin, praised then as now, was believed to cure everything but death. Herbs were given in teas, pastes, powders, tinctures, ointments, and fumigations. Healing was practical, but it was also mystical. Egyptian medicine lived at the intersection of science and spirituality. Healers in ancient Egypt were often priests. They served the temples of gods and goddesses such as Sekhmet, Bastet, and Thoth. To them, illness was imbalance, sometimes between body systems, sometimes between the self and the gods. So, healing involved more than plants. It involved ritual. A treatment might begin with a chant, offered in the language of the divine. An amulet might be tied around the neck, etched with protective symbols. Incense, frankincense, myrrh, or kai-fi might be burned to cleanse the air and invite healing spirits. The healer might consult a sacred text or perform a rite passed down for generations. Many temples had their own gardens. Within their walls, herbs grew in neat rows: mint, thyme, marjoram, mandrake, blue lotus. Scribes, wrapped in white linen, would carefully transcribe the wisdom of each plant, copying ancient texts by hand preserving them for future generations. Women played a vital role in this healing tradition. Mothers passed their remedies to daughters. Midwives brewed teas of fennel and fenugreek to ease labor. Elders shared salves made of olive oil and beeswax to soothe dry skin or sore joints. Healing was not a distant science. It was a daily rhythm, a spiritual devotion. Now, imagine yourself walking through an Egyptian temple garden at twilight. The air is warm. The scent of rose and hibiscus fills your lungs. You hear the distant hum of a prayer sung in honor of Isis, the goddess of healing. A priestess walks barefoot along the stone path, collecting petals in a clay bowl. She stops beside a fig tree, offers a quiet thanks, and gathers its leaves. Inside the temple, a clay pot sits over glowing coals. Inside, a tea of cinnamon, hibiscus, and orange peel simmers slowly. The steam curls upward, fragrant and thick. A balm made of honey and crushed juniper is prepared. A sick child is brought forward. The healer applies the balm with gentle hands, whispering a blessing into the child's ear. Even in death, the plants were called upon. Egyptian embalmers used herbs to preserve the body for its journey to the afterlife. Mummies were wrapped in linens soaked in oils of cedar and myrrh. Bodies were filled with resins, rinsed with palm wine, anointed with aromatic mixtures. Juniper to purify, cassia to protect, cinnamon to embolden the soul. Each herb had purpose. Each scent was memory. Death was not the end, but a sacred transformation, and herbs helped guide the spirit on its way. The tombs of pharaohs were filled with dried herbs, meant to comfort and protect in the next world. Bouquets of blue lotus, bundles of sage, jars of perfumed oil. These gifts of the earth, once used to heal the body, were now offerings to the soul. So rest now, dear listener, in this space between Nile and star. Let the ancient gardens of Egypt wrap you in their scent. Let the clay tablets of Mesopotamia whisper their wisdom to your spirit. You are walking paths once trod by scribes and priestesses, by healers and herbalists, by mothers and dreamers. The herbal traditions of Mesopotamia and Egypt were not just knowledge. They were lifeways, devotions, sacred inheritances. Even now, their echoes live on. In the coriander in your spice drawer, in the mint in your tea, in the honey on your bread. You carry their legacy in your rituals of self-care, in your quiet moments of reflection, in the plants you tend or touch. So breathe deeply. Feel the warm wind of the desert brush your skin. Hear the soft rustle of papyrus. Smell the distant smoke of frankincense curling skyward. And know this: you are part of the great story of healing. A story written not only in books and scrolls, but in soil and water and breath. Let this truth bring peace. Let it guide you into stillness. And as we leave these ancient lands behind and continue our journey through the herbal wisdom of time, carry with you the sacred scent of those who came before, the ones who first listened to the language of leaves. Let us go gently. Let us go with reverence. Let us go with the blessings of the plants. We now drift further east toward the ancient sacred soil of India, a land alive with color, rhythm, prayer, and nature's abundant gifts. It is here, more than 5,000 years ago, that one of humanity's most profound healing traditions was born. Ayurveda. The very word carries a melody. Ayur meaning life, and Veda meaning knowledge or wisdom. Together, they form Ayurveda, the wisdom of life, the science of longevity, the sacred art of harmonious living. It is not merely medicine, it is a philosophy, a way of understanding the self in relationship with the cosmos, with the elements, with the plants that grow in the earth beneath our feet. According to legend, this wisdom was received by ancient seers, rishis, during deep states of meditation in the stillness of Himalayan forests. With hearts attuned to the subtle language of nature, these sages listened not just with ears, but with the soul. They observed how animals healed themselves, how winds shifted with the seasons, how certain plants appeared only when needed. In that stillness, truths emerged. Ayurveda was not invented, it was remembered. The universe, Ayurveda teaches, is composed of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And these elements exist within each of us, in unique proportions. These energies, known as doshas, shape our constitution, our health, and our path toward balance. The 3 doshas, vata, air and ether, pitta, fire and water, and kapha, earth and water, dance together in every person. When they are balanced, health flourishes. When they fall out of rhythm, illness appears, not as punishment, but as guidance. The plants, ever our allies, were seen by Ayurvedic healers as living embodiments of the elements. Ashwagandha, grounding and warm, offers strength to those with too much vata, the wind within. Its name means strength of a horse, for it restores stamina and resilience. Turmeric, golden and bright like the sun, cools the sharpness of pitta, calming the fires of inflammation and clearing the skin. Tulsi, the holy basil, is revered not only for its adaptogenic power, but for its spiritual presence. It is grown in courtyards and temples, kissed by morning light and watered with prayers. Let us pause for a moment and imagine the rising of the sun over an Indian village. The air is soft and still. A rooster calls in the distance. Light spills over tiled rooftops and coconut palms. Inside a simple mud brick home, a woman wraps herself in a cotton shawl. She walks barefoot to the kitchen, where turmeric simmers in warm milk. The golden drink is thick with ghee, and she stirs it slowly, whispering a blessing. Her daughter grinds cardamom seeds nearby, while her son chews on neem twigs, their bitter bite cleansing his teeth and awakening his senses. Outside, an elderly healer walks quietly through the garden. Her fingers brush over the fragrant leaves of Brahmi, known to sharpen memory and calm the mind. She picks a handful, places them in her copper vessel, and pours water from a clay pot. She chants softly as she prepares the morning tea, not as a performance, but as a practice, as devotion. In Ayurveda, healing is woven into the fabric of daily life. It is not reserved for moments of sickness. It is in the food, the breath, the movement, the prayers. It is in how one sleeps, how one wakes, how one digests not just food, but thought and emotion. Herbs are not isolated remedies. They are part of a whole life lived in rhythm with the sun, the moon, the seasons, and the soul. In the early morning hours, Brahma Muhurta, the sacred window before sunrise, people rise, bathe, and begin their day in alignment with nature. Oil is warmed over a small flame, often infused with healing herbs like sesame, bala, or mangista. This oil is gently massaged into the body in a ritual known as abhyanga. It calms the nerves, nourishes the skin, and brings balance to the doshas. This act is both physical and spiritual. It says to the body, "You are loved. You are sacred." Incense rises from earthen burners. Frankincense, sandalwood, and camphor cleanse the air and focus the mind. Rooms are swept, not just of dust, but of stagnant energy. Windows are opened, prayers are sung. Healing here is not a destination. It is a daily path. Ayurveda teaches us that digestion is the fire at the center of health. Agni, the sacred flame. And so, herbs and spices are chosen not just for flavor, but for function. Ginger to ignite the fire, fennel to soothe, cumin to balance, cloves to purify. Every meal is a chance to heal. A typical breakfast might be a warm porridge, lightly spiced with cardamom and cinnamon, adorned with dates and ghee, or a simple lentil broth with curry leaves, mustard seeds, and a sprig of coriander. The food is fresh, seasonal, and eaten with awareness. Later, a decoction of triphala, made from amalaki, bibitaki, and haritaki, is taken to cleanse and rejuvenate. Bitter herbs such as neem and kutki may be used for purification. Shatavari, soft and nurturing, supports women's health. Guggulu, a resin, strengthens the joints. Each herb has a personality, a story, a place in the sacred dance of balance. Let us now enter an Ayurvedic healing center. The walls are painted in soft ochre. Bowls of dried herbs line the shelves. The scent of sandalwood fills the air. A patient sits with the Vaidya, the Ayurvedic doctor. There are no machines, no harsh lights. The healer looks into the patient's eyes, takes their pulse, asks about sleep, appetite, mood, dreams. The diagnosis is not just physical, it is energetic. The treatment will be personal, unique, a blend of herbal mixtures, lifestyle adjustments, spiritual practices, and food. The goal is not only to remove symptoms, but to restore wholeness. Nearby, in a small treatment room, warm oil pours steadily in a stream across the forehead of another patient in a therapy called Shirodhara. This rhythmic, continuous flow induces a deep state of peace. Anxiety dissolves. Sleep returns. Clarity arises. The oil is not just a substance. It is a medium for love, for stillness, for healing touch. Ayurveda also honors the passage of time. In spring, bitter and astringent herbs are favored to cleanse. In summer, cooling plants like aloe and rose soothe the heat. In autumn, warming spices like ginger and cinnamon support digestion. In winter, grounding herbs like ashwagandha and licorice fortify the body. The healer watches the sky, feels the earth, and responds accordingly. Spirituality flows through it all. Temples often have their own herbal gardens. Statues of Dhanvantari, the god of healing, are offered tulsi and marigold. The chants of the Rigveda, the oldest of the Vedas, sing the praises of herbs as divine gifts. One verse reads, "O plants, you were born of divine wisdom, created by the gods. You who are rich in healing, grant us your blessing." Even the air vibrates with prayer. Every step is sacred. every sip of tea a communion with the spirit of the plant. Now, let us sit quietly in an Ayurvedic kitchen. The fire is low. The spices are warming in ghee, cumin, coriander, turmeric. A copper pot bubbles gently on the stove. Outside, a breeze stirs the neem tree. The birds sing their evening songs. A healer grinds herbs with a stone mortar, slow and mindful. She hums a mantra under her breath. In this kitchen, medicine is not hidden in cabinets. It is on the shelf, in the garden, in the heart. Brahmi for focus, Amalaki for youth, Tulsi for devotion. The lines between life and healing blur until they become one. So, rest here, dear listener, in this place where herbs are not only remedies, but teachers, where the body is not a machine to fix, but a temple to honor, where healing is not a cure, but a remembrance of wholeness. Let the wisdom of Ayurveda flow into you like warm tea. Let it nourish your bones. Let it ease your thoughts. Let it remind you that you, too, are made of earth, fire, water, air, and ether. That your breath is sacred, your rhythm is natural, your healing is your birthright. We will stay here for just a little longer, in this sanctuary of warmth and wisdom, before continuing onward on our journey through the history of herbal medicine. Let the herbs cradle you. Let the ancient chants lull you. Let yourself be held. Let yourself be healed. Now, we journey further east, across jade mountains and winding rivers, to the serene and ancient landscapes of China. Here, a great tradition of healing began to unfold, a tradition that, over thousands of years, would evolve into one of the most profound and intricate systems of medicine ever known. Traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. It is not simply a medical system. It is a philosophy, a way of seeing the world, the body, and the breath as interconnected parts of one great, flowing whole. In TCM, health is harmony between yin and yang, fire and water, emotion and thought, person and planet. Where the West often sees separateness, TCM sees unity. It embraces wholeness. It honors rhythm. Let us pause for a moment and step into this ancient wisdom. In the gentle stillness of early dawn, imagine a Chinese village in a quiet valley. Morning mist rolls through the bamboo groves. A distant bell chimes softly from a mountain temple. In a stone courtyard, a healer in flowing robes sweeps the leaves away with a handmade broom. Her day begins not with urgency, but with presence. She walks slowly to her apothecary, a room filled with the fragrances of dried herbs, polished wood, and tea steam. Everything in traditional Chinese medicine begins with qi, pronounced qi, the life force, the subtle energy that animates all living beings. Qi flows through meridians, channels that run through the body like rivers through the earth. These meridians nourish the organs, regulate the systems, and keep the body in dynamic balance. When qi flows freely, there is health. When qi is stagnant, blocked, excessive, or deficient, disharmony arises. In this philosophy, illness is not an enemy. It is a signal, a whisper from within, a gentle request for realignment. And herbs are one of the most graceful ways to bring qi back into its natural rhythm. Each herb has its nature, its flavor, its temperature, and its affinity. The wisdom of herbalism is in matching the plant to the person, the symptom to the spirit, the body to the season. The roots of herbal medicine in China stretch deep into legend. One of the foundational texts is the Shen Nong Bian Cao Jing, the divine farmer's classic of materia medica. It is said to have been written by Shen Nong, a mythical emperor who is considered the father of Chinese herbal medicine. He is often depicted wearing robes of red, a symbol of vitality, with a transparent abdomen, so that he could observe the effects of herbs as he tasted them. The stories tell us that Shen Nong sampled hundreds, perhaps thousands of herbs, learning through trial and deep intuition which ones healed and which ones harmed. He categorized them into three classes: superior herbs, those that nourished life and could be taken daily, such as ginseng, goji berries, and reishi mushrooms. These were for longevity, spirit, and strength. Average herbs, used to treat imbalances and diseases, such as peony root or astragalus. Inferior herbs, those that were potent and sometimes toxic, used with caution and precision, such as aconite or rhubarb root. Now, breathe deeply and picture a parchment scroll slowly unfurling across a wooden table. Its edges are curled and worn with age. The brushstrokes are delicate, painted in ink made from soot and pine resin. You see the elegant forms of ginseng root, chrysanthemum flower, licorice slices, and dried orange peel. These are not just ingredients. They are characters in a cosmic story. Each one plays its part. Each one contributes to a greater narrative of healing, of balance, of renewal. Ginseng, with its human-shaped root, is considered a life tonic. It replenishes qi, strengthens the lungs, and restores vitality after exhaustion. It is warming, energizing, and sacred. Astragalus, light and sweet, is used to support the immune system. It raises the qi of the middle burner, the digestive core of the body, and protects against fatigue, both physical and emotional. Reishi, known as the mushroom of immortality, is revered for its effects on the spirit. It calms the shen, the heart-mind, and promotes sleep, emotional balance, and long life. Each herb has a flavor: bitter, sweet, pungent, sour, or salty, and each flavor corresponds to an element and an organ. Bitterness cools and clears heat. Sweetness tonifies and harmonizes. Sourness astringes and holds. Pungency disperses. Saltiness softens. Each herb also has a temperature: cold, warm, hot, or neutral. And this, too, must be matched to the person's condition. In TCM, the healer is not looking for a single cause. They are looking at the whole person: the climate outside, the emotions within, the balance of yin and yang, the state of the organs, the flow of qi. Diagnosis is a story told through pulse and tongue, through observation and conversation. And so, an herbal formula is never one size fits all. It is a symphony, an arrangement of herbs designed to work together, each with its own role. The emperor herb addresses the main concern. The minister herbs support it. The assistant herbs adjust and harmonize. The envoy herbs guide the formula to specific channels and ensure balance. In the healer's apothecary, wooden drawers line the walls, each labeled with beautiful calligraphy. Inside are dried roots, barks, leaves, and blossoms. Angelica, dongquai, licorice, schisandra, bupleurum. The healer selects each one with care, weighing them on a brass scale, balancing their energies like a poet choosing words. The herbs are placed into a ceramic pot, water added, and the mixture is brought to a gentle simmer. The decoction is slow and meditative. The scent fills the air, earthy, sweet, slightly bitter. The healer ladles the tea into a cup, hands it to the patient, and says gently, "Drink slowly. Let it speak to your body." Let us pause here and picture a quiet courtyard. Lanterns sway in the breeze. The stone tiles are cool beneath bare feet. In the center, a healer prepares a steaming bowl of tonic for a weary traveler who has just returned from a long journey. His eyes are tired. His breath is shallow. She offers the tea, bows slightly, and speaks no words. The traveler drinks, and as he does, the scent of plum blossoms drifts through the air. The petals fall softly to the ground like snow. In that moment, something shifts. Not just the body, but the spirit. A sense of wholeness begins to return. This is the magic of TCM. It heals not only with herbs, but with intention, atmosphere, relationship, and rhythm. TCM understands that emotions are not separate from the body. They are currents of energy. Anger is said to rise from the liver, worry from the spleen, fear from the kidneys, grief from the lungs, joy from the heart. And just as herbs can clear phlegm or nourish blood, they can soothe sorrow, calm rage, and uplift the spirit. Peony root for emotional tension. Schisandra berries to gather scattered energy. Polygala to open the heart. Chrysanthemum to cool the mind. Longan fruit to nourish the blood and help with sleep. Bamboo shavings to ease irritability and settle the stomach. In TCM, harmony is the goal, not perfection, not suppression, not escape. Just gentle alignment with the truth of who we are, in this season, in this body, on this path. And so, a TCM practitioner listens not just to symptoms, but to stories. They feel the pulse, subtle waves that speak of organs and chi. They observe the tongue, its color, texture, moisture. They ask about dreams, digestion, body temperature, mood. They are not diagnosing a disease. They are reading a pattern. And the herbs are the response. Together, they create a space where the body remembers how to heal itself, not by force, but by invitation, not with violence, but with care. Let us stay here for a moment longer, in the peace of this courtyard, where the heart and herbs move in rhythm with the universe. A dragonfly flits past. A wind chime tinkles. The tea is warm in your hands, and you are safe. The wisdom of TCM lives on, not only in China, but all around the world. In acupuncture clinics, herbal shops, meditation rooms, and kitchens. Every time someone brews chrysanthemum tea for cooling. Every time someone takes licorice root for a sore throat. Every time someone finds peace through plant medicine. It is still here, still flowing, still guiding. The same qi that animated the scrolls of Shen Nong, the same stillness that fills the misty morning mountains, the same harmony that hums through bamboo and pine. So rest, dear listener. Let your breath slow. Let your body soften. Let the story of Chinese herbal medicine become a quiet river flowing through you. Let it carry you, gently, into deeper rest. And now, when you are ready, we will continue our journey onward, into new lands, new traditions, and more of the ancient wisdom of the earth. Let us go, slowly. Let us go, listening. Let us go, with gratitude. From the stillness of eastern scrolls and misty mountains, we now drift gently westward, into a world of marble temples, olive groves, sun-kissed coastlines, and ancient wisdom carved into the stones of civilization. We arrive in the classical lands of Greece and Rome, where herbal healing was not just practice. It was poetry, philosophy, science, and the very art of living well. Here, in these luminous lands of thought and form, herbal medicine found new language, elegant, methodical, and deeply human. Knowledge was gathered not only through ritual and intuition, but through systematic observation, spirited debate, and written discourse. Healing was intertwined with logic, ethics, beauty, and a sense of reverence for nature's gifts. Let us begin in Greece, where the foundations of Western medicine were gently laid by the hand of one humble physician, Hippocrates of Kos. He lived in the 5th century BCE, during the Golden Age of Athens, a time when philosophy, art, and science flourished like never before. He is often remembered as the father of modern medicine. But Hippocrates was not a man of pride or spectacle. He was a quiet observer of the human body, of illness, and, most importantly, of the natural world. He taught that health was a state of balance, and that disease was not punishment from the gods, but a disruption of the body's internal harmony. He believed that to understand healing, one must understand the whole context of the patient's life: diet, habits, environment, sleep patterns, emotions, and constitution. The body, he said, was a microcosm of the greater universe, and herbs, like stars or seasons, were integral to restoring balance. Let us imagine his world now. A sunlit stone courtyard overlooks the sparkling Aegean Sea. Grapevines climb over wooden trellises. A fig tree stretches its limbs in the corner, its broad leaves whispering in the breeze. A teacher kneels beside a young apprentice. Together, they gather wild thyme, fennel, and oregano from the nearby hillside. The scent of rosemary drifts in the warm air. The teacher breaks a sprig of oregano, releasing its strong, earthy scent, and places it in the boy's hand. "This," he says softly, "is not just for flavor. It is for the lungs, for courage, for memory." Nearby, scrolls are unrolled upon a smooth marble bench, delicate drawings and notes inked by careful hands. They speak of mint, used to soothe digestion; willow bark, to ease pain and reduce fever; garlic, to cleanse the blood and warm the body. In Hippocratic medicine, the human body was believed to be governed by 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, each linked to the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. Herbs were carefully selected to influence these humors, and return the body to its ideal state. A warming herb might be given to a cold constitution, a drying herb to someone damp or sluggish. Medicine was personalized and fluid, guided by the seasons, the symptoms, and the patient's inner landscape. One of Hippocrates' greatest teachings was simple: let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. In these few words lies the heart of his philosophy. Healing is not something separate from life. It is life. It is how we eat, how we breathe, how we move, how we sleep, and how we connect with the world around us. Now, let the wind carry us gently forward through time, to the 1st century CE, to the Roman Empire, where another healer of great renown would leave an enduring mark on the herbal world. His name was Dioscorides, a Greek physician and botanist who served as a military doctor in the Roman army. He traveled across the vast empire, from the forests of Asia Minor to the deserts of Syria, collecting herbs, making observations, and testing preparations. The result of his tireless devotion was a monumental work, De Materia Medica, or On Medical Substances. This 5-volume encyclopedia described over 600 medicinal plants and included illustrations, preparation methods, dosages, and applications. It was used by healers, monks, apothecaries, and herbalists for over 1,500 years as the primary reference for herbal knowledge. Imagine the pages of his book now, yellowed with age, the ink fading but still legible. Images of juniper berries, mandrake root, poppy pods, and coriander seeds dance across the parchment. The text tells of sage to support the intellect, myrrh to cleanse wounds and ward off decay, and rose petals to calm grief and open the heart. But healing was never confined to scrolls or clinics. In both Greek and Roman cultures, herbs were woven into every aspect of life. In temples, laurel and bay were burned in sacred fires to purify the space and invite divine presence. In kitchens, herbs such as thyme, oregano, basil, and marjoram were added to dishes not only for flavor, but to aid digestion and support vitality. In homes, bundles of rosemary were hung in doorways to protect from illness. Rue, bitter and potent, was kept in pouches to ward off bad spirits and misfortune. In the baths, healing reached a luxurious pinnacle. The great Roman thermae were architectural marvels, vast spaces filled with marble pools, hot and cold baths, steam rooms, and lounging gardens. Water was drawn from springs and aqueducts, heated by roaring fires, and perfumed with lavender, mint, and chamomile. Here, citizens came not only to bathe, but to heal. They would soak in warm water, sweat in fragrant steam, and receive massages with herbal oils. Let us pause here. Picture a grand bathhouse at twilight. Tall columns rise into the evening sky. The sound of trickling fountains echoes through the tiled halls. The air is warm and steamy, thick with the scent of eucalyptus and thyme. You are handed a towel laced with sage oil. You sit beside a steaming pool. The water embraces you. Candles flicker gently. You close your eyes. Healing is not a task. It is a pleasure. It is the art of returning to wholeness through beauty, stillness, and touch. The Romans, ever practical and visionary, brought herbs with them wherever they traveled. Military doctors carried pouches filled with dried plants and salves. yarrow for wounds, comfrey for broken bones, plantain for insect bites and stings. Every Roman settlement, no matter how far from home, included gardens. Herbs were planted in villa courtyards, on monastery grounds, and along city walls. To the Romans, the garden was sacred. It was a place of cultivation, of food, of healing, of serenity. Gardens were often geometric and structured, yet filled with wild scents and colors. They symbolized the perfect union of man and nature. In both Greek and Roman traditions, medicine was never divorced from philosophy or the sacred. Thinkers like Aristotle, Galen, and Pliny the Elder blended observation with metaphysical thought. They saw the human body not as a machine to be fixed, but as a cosmos unto itself, worthy of reverence. Everything had its place, everything had its purpose, and herbs, humble, aromatic, persistent, were the messengers of that order. So let us rest here, in a Mediterranean garden. Vines curl lazily around marble columns. Olive branches sway in the breeze. Bees hum among lavender and lemon balm. A scroll lies open on a wooden table, catching the golden light of the setting sun. A young woman collects herbs in a woven basket. A child chases butterflies among the thyme. You are here, among them, part of this lineage. You walk in the footsteps of philosophers and physicians, cooks and healers. You are wrapped in the same warmth that once touched Hippocrates' hands. You breathe the same scented air that drifted through Roman baths. The legacy of Greece and Rome does not live in books alone. It lives in the rosemary by your kitchen sink. It lives in the mint you brew for your belly. It lives in the instinct to lay a lavender sachet beside your pillow. These ancient traditions are alive. They grow quietly, steadily, between the cracks in the pavement, in backyard gardens, and in the memories of our hands. So rest, dear traveler. Feel the earth beneath your feet. Let the wisdom of the ancients root in your heart. And when you are ready, we will journey onward, to other lands, other voices, guided always by the green thread that weaves through all healing. Let us go gently. Let us go with reverence. Let us go with the ancients walking quietly beside us. Now, we journey across wide oceans and deep time, across continents rich with song, soil, and ancestral memory. We arrive in places where healing was never confined to a scroll or a temple, but lived in the bones of the earth, the breath of the wind, and the beating hearts of those who knew the plants as family. These lands hold the pulse of the old world, and they whisper stories that carry the power to awaken our deepest sense of belonging. We walk now into the sacred and intertwined traditions of Africa, the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and the Celtic lands of ancient Europe, each a living vessel of herbal wisdom passed through time, reverently carried by elders, dreamers, and those who listen with their whole spirit. Africa. Healing through the ancestors and earth. Let us begin in Africa, where herbal medicine is not a separate field, but part of the very soul of daily life. It is a birthright, a way of walking the earth with reverence, humility, and deep listening. Here, the earth is alive with stories, and each plant is a verse in an ancient song. The healer is a steward of this song, a translator between realms, and a vessel through which generations of wisdom continue to bloom. In many African cultures, The healer is known by many names: Sangoma, Nganga, Inyanga, Babalawo. Regardless of the title, their role extends far beyond administering remedies. They are keepers of oral history, dream interpreters, ritual leaders, and spiritual protectors. They are the ones who read the symbols in nature: a bird's flight, the way leaves fall, the sudden stir of wind, and who understand these as messages from the spirit world. Healing in this context is holistic, fluid, and sacred. Illness is not viewed solely as a physical disturbance, but as a disharmony in relationships, with the self, with the ancestors, with the community, and with the spirit of the land. And so, healing rituals involve not only plants, but also dance, drumming, song, and invocation. Before any plant is touched, permission is asked. The healer will kneel in the soil, whisper prayers, and sing to the spirit of the plant. Offerings may be left: a splash of water, a handful of grain, a piece of cloth. This exchange is not superstition, but sacred science, a recognition that everything has spirit, and that healing requires relationship, not exploitation. Let us now step into this world, if only in our imagination. Picture the African savanna at first light. The horizon blushes with gold. The air is alive with the call of birds. A small fire crackles beside a circle of stones. The healer, wrapped in flowing fabrics dyed with the colors of earth and river, crouches near the flames. Around them are baskets woven from palm fronds and reeds, filled with roots, barks, berries, and leaves gathered from hills, riversides, and secret forest paths. You see baobab fruit, thick-shelled and heavy with tangy, nutritious pulp. The healer cracks one open, scoops the powder into water, and stirs. This is given to those needing strength, nourishment, and balance. The bark is dried and used to reduce fever, while the leaves are pounded into a paste to soothe wounds and skin irritations. This tree is not just a source of medicine. It is a cosmic being. It stores water in its trunk. It provides shelter. It stands as a sentinel across generations. Nearby, rooibos leaves are spread out to dry in the sun. This gentle herb, naturally caffeine-free, soothes digestion and nerves. Children are given warm rooibos to ease colic or to help them sleep. Elders drink it with honey to calm aching joints. It is more than a tea. It is a gesture of care, a ritual of peace. And then there is Kinkaliba, the health tree of West Africa. Its leaves are gathered in the cool morning, then brewed slowly into a reddish-brown tea. It is said to awaken the senses, flush out fatigue, and protect the liver. In villages from Senegal to Mali, the first sip of Kinkaliba marks the beginning of the day. But herbalism in Africa is never an isolated act. It happens in rhythm with life. Children are taught from a young age to recognize useful plants. Grandmothers sing lullabies that include the names of herbs. Festivals are held to honor harvest seasons, and each celebration includes healing brews and sacred smoke. Picture a village courtyard at sunset. The women are seated in a circle, braiding hair and exchanging stories. Bundles of dried hibiscus hang from a wooden beam. Drums echo in the distance. A child rushes in with a scraped knee. An elder reaches for marula bark, grinds it, mixes it with water, and gently applies it. The child quiets, not just from the herb, but from the presence of the elder's hands, the rhythm of breath, the humming of a song passed down through generations. Here, healing is not transactional. It is relational. It is storytelling, song, memory, and the earth's embrace. The healer is not a technician, but a guide, a dreamer, a poet of the plant world. Their knowledge comes not from laboratories or institutions, but from direct experience, watching the sky, listening to wind, tasting the bitterness of bark, and remembering the dreams of those who came before. In the African tradition, the plant is not a resource. It is kin. It is ancestor. It is medicine made of sun and soil and soul. It is life. Healing may begin with a tea, but it does not end there. It includes ritual cleansing with herbs like African basil or lemongrass, spiritual baths prepared with frankincense and salt, protective charms filled with powdered roots, and songs that summon inner strength. Each plant carries an intention, and every remedy is a prayer. In the marketplaces of Lagos, Dakar, and Accra, you will find rows of stalls where healers sell prepared concoctions, powdered neem for blood purification, moringa for nourishment, tamarind paste for cooling fevers, and incenses made from myrrh, gum arabic, and shea bark. These medicines are wrapped in banana leaves, tied with twine, blessed with words. And in remote forests, away from the noise, ceremonies are held to awaken memory. The old songs are sung. Calabashes are passed around. The drums speak in rhythms older than words. It is in these spaces that healing expands beyond the body, into the soul, the lineage, the dream of the people. Let us stay here a moment longer, surrounded by drum beats and fragrant smoke, listening to the whispers of baobab and kinkaliba. And then, gently, we will continue to the mountains, forests, deserts, and rivers of the indigenous Americas. Now we cross the ocean to the Americas, to a continent of vast forests, towering mountains, endless plains, and living traditions that stretch far beyond recorded history. Here, the relationship with the land is not just historical, it is eternal. The wind still carries the prayers of ancient voices. The rivers still sing songs of healing. The ground beneath our feet still holds the memory of those who walked gently, honoring every plant, animal, and stone. These lands are living books, written not in ink, but in spirit. Each leaf and stream a sacred syllable, each mountain a testament to time and reverence. The indigenous peoples of the Americas have long held a sacred relationship with plants, one rooted in respect, reciprocity, and reverence. For them, herbs are not resources to extract. They are sacred relatives, wise beings gifted by the Creator, each with a spirit, a purpose, and a lesson to share. Plants are teachers, guardians, and guides. They are companions on the path of life, and their presence is never taken for granted. Every plant carries a story, every root a memory, and every blossom a prayer whispered through generations. Close your eyes and picture the cool green shadows of a pine forest. The scent of cedar and sweetgrass rises in the air. You hear the distant call of a bird, the rustle of a deer in the underbrush. In a clearing, a circle of elders gathers around a small fire. Bundles of sage are passed from hand to hand. A feather is dipped into the smoke and waved slowly, purifying the space, the breath, the heart. Words are spoken not loudly, but with deep intention. Each phrase is a thread in the fabric of the ritual. Stories drift like smoke into the canopy above, where ancestors watch and listen. Here, healing is ceremony. It is not just about symptoms, it is about reconnection to the land, to the self, to the ancestors, and to the spirit world. Healing is not a quick fix. It is a sacred return to balance, to clarity, to truth. It is remembering who we are and where we come from. It is the soft reweaving of broken strands between body, spirit, and place. It is a homecoming, not to a house, but to the sacred order of life itself. Sage is burned to cleanse and purify. Cedar is boiled into tea to protect against illness and negative energy. Tobacco is offered as a gift to the earth or the spirit of a plant before harvesting. Yarrow stops bleeding and eases fevers. Juniper berries warm the body and shield against spiritual harm. Mullein clears the lungs. Sweetgrass braids blessings into the air. In South America, sacred plant ceremonies are held with deep reverence. In the Amazon, the ayahuasca vine is prepared with sacred songs, icaros, and administered only by experienced shamans. It is not a medicine for the body alone. It is a mirror for the soul, a portal to ancestral memory, and a catalyst for transformation. The ceremony is carefully held, often lasting through the night. Each song, each drumbeat, each breath is intentional. The experience may bring visions, tears, and truths that flow like rivers back to the roots of being. Every region, from the Andes to the plains, from the rainforests to the deserts, has its own sacred pharmacopoeia. Blue corn, prickly pear, echinacea, wild tobacco, cacao, chili peppers, and mesquite are not merely food or flavor. They are offerings. They are medicine. They are prayers made tangible. In each bite, in each brew, there is memory. There is story. There is the breath of ancestors and the heartbeat of the land. Picture a Pueblo elder gathering yucca root to make a cleansing shampoo, or a Navajo healer preparing juniper ash to mix into a sacred dish for a child, or a Lakota grandmother offering tobacco and prayer before harvesting sage from the hillside. Every act is reverent. Every harvest is intentional. Every step is prayer. Even the silence is sacred. The breath between words, a space for listening to the voices of the plants. Imagine now a night under the stars. You sit beside a circle of elders. A pot of tea simmers over the fire, made from bark, berries, blossoms, and prayers. Stories are told. Drums are played. A chant begins. A song not just of the past, but of presence. Each note carries the weight of memory and the lightness of hope. The fire flickers and dances, casting shadows that resemble ancient spirits, moving in rhythm with the songs. Laughter and tears mix as the stories unfold, linking hearts across generations. Healing, here, is a remembering. It is a coming home. It is the feeling of your bare feet on the earth, the sound of your ancestors' breath in the wind. It is a sunrise ceremony by the river, where a cup of tea becomes an act of renewal. It is knowing that you are not alone, that the trees, the stones, the animals, and the sky are always listening. Healing flows from the land into the bones, reminding us of our original instructions to live in balance, with care and with reverence. Children grow up learning the names of plants as they do family members. They learn to offer thanks before taking anything from nature. Grandparents whisper stories of how cedar once healed a warrior, or how sunflower seeds were planted after the Great Migration. These are not fairy tales. They are roadmaps. They are medicine. Songs, dances, and ceremonies are part of daily life, not reserved for special occasions. Healing wisdom lives in lullabies, in recipes, in the gentle correction of a hand guiding a younger one. To the indigenous peoples of the Americas, healing is not linear. It moves in circles. It begins and ends with relationship, with respect for the past, presence in the moment, and hope for the future. Herbs are part of this circle. They remind us that healing is possible, that life is sacred, that we are never alone, and that through every root, blossom, and ritual, we are called to remember our responsibility as caretakers of life. So stay here a while longer. Feel the earth beneath you. Smell the sweet smoke in the air. Let the drumbeat become your heartbeat. Let the stories guide your dreams. Let your breath slow to match the rhythm of the earth. The plants are still here. The wisdom is still alive. And you are still part of the circle. You always have been. And you always will be. Now we cross the sea once more, to the ancient Celtic lands of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and Gaul, where forests of oak and ash, rolling green hills, and stone circles bear witness to an herbal tradition steeped in mystery, myth, and magic. These are places where the veil between worlds feels thin, where mist weaves between tree trunks like a spirit, and where the stones themselves seem to hum with stories. The landscape is not a backdrop. It is alive, enchanted, whispering its truths to those who know how to listen. The Druids, the priest-healers and philosophers of the Celtic world, saw the natural world as sacred in every detail. Trees were guardians of time. Stones were keepers of memory. Herbs were living expressions of divine will, growing where they were most needed, blooming in rhythm with celestial cycles. Their practices were rarely written down. Instead, they lived in the breath and voice, carried through story, ritual, and memory. Theirs was a living wisdom, shaped by moonlight, mist, and myth. Imagine walking through a misty glen, where the air is cool and sweet, filled with the scent of damp earth and wild herbs. Moss carpets the ground like velvet. The branches of ancient oaks stretch overhead, their bark etched with time. An elder, cloaked in wool dyed with nettle and walnut, kneels beside a clear stream, gathering yarrow and meadowsweet into a hand-stitched leather satchel. She hums softly as she works, whispering to the plants in a language half forgotten, half sung. She knows each plant not only by its use, but by its spirit. Mistletoe, especially when harvested from oak trees during the winter solstice, was considered the most sacred of all plants, believed to carry divine light, heal infertility, offer protection from poison, and link the seen with the unseen. The Druids cut it with golden sickles and caught it in cloths so it would never touch the ground. Nettle, prickly and fierce, was gathered for its iron-rich leaves and its fortifying nature. It was used to build strength, to ease joint pain, and to make nourishing broths and healing teas. Its sting was seen not just as a warning, but as a challenge, a test of endurance and vitality. Yarrow was cherished for its ability to stop bleeding, ease fevers, and protect against wounds both physical and energetic. It was said to strengthen the aura and keep out harmful influences. Mugwort, the dream herb, was known for opening the mind to visions. It was burned before ceremonies, placed under pillows for prophetic dreams, and used in divination. It was considered a guide between the worlds, a plant of mystery and deep inner sight. Herbs were often gathered under moonlight, accompanied by songs and invocations. Each harvest was a ceremony. The plants were laid out to dry in thatched cottages, tied in bundles, or stored in carved wooden chests. Their presence filled the home with their scent, their stories, their blessings. Healing was not merely physical. It was poetic, spiritual, seasonal. It moved with the tides and stars. The Celtic herbalist was also a bard, a keeper of myth, a tracker of stars. They understood not only the pharmacology of a plant, but its personality, its song, its story in the turning of the year. They watched the phases of the moon, the shifts in the wind, the calls of birds. Everything spoke. Everything mattered. Imagine now a stone circle at dusk. The sun dips low behind the hills. Mist curls over the grass. A fire burns in the center, its light dancing on ancient stones. People gather, elders, children, mothers, fathers, and wanderers. Someone plays a harp. A tale is told of a goddess who transformed into a hawthorn tree, or a warrior healed by fern and ash. Herbs are passed hand to hand. Lavender for calm, vervain for protection, hawthorn for the heart. A pot of tea made from lemon balm, chamomile, and valerian is shared in silence. Steam curls upward, like a prayer. Here, healing is kinship. It is remembering that we are part of the land, not above it. That we belong not through conquest, but through care. The stones remember us. The herbs recognize us. We are not lost. We are returning. These traditions, African, indigenous, and Celtic, come from different lands, different languages, and different lineages. But they share one simple, beautiful truth. Plants are more than remedies. They are kin. They are elders, teachers, mirrors, and guides. They do not only treat illness, they restore connection. They do not just relieve pain, they rekindle belonging. To drink a tea, to burn an herb, to whisper a prayer into leaves is to say, I remember. I remember I am not separate. I remember I am held. I remember I am made of earth and sky and breath. I remember the songs my ancestors once sang. So let us rest here, beneath the stars of every continent, wrapped in the scent of herbs, surrounded by stories. Let us rest in this shared memory, a quiet song that lives in every leaf, every root, every breath of herbal steam rising into the night air. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders soften. Let your spirit feel the warmth of ancestral presence. And as we prepare to journey onward, into sleep, into dream, into peace, may you carry this ancient wisdom in your heart, in your bones, and in your breath. Let us go, softly. Let us go, together. Let us go, remembering. As we continue our slow and sacred walk through time, We now find ourselves in an age of cloisters and courtyards, manuscripts and minarets. The medieval period, a time where herbal knowledge survived by candlelight and blossomed anew in the hands of scribes, monks, mystics, and philosophers. It was an age in which the natural world remained a sacred teacher, and medicine was infused with devotion, discovery, and spiritual significance. Here, in both medieval Europe and the flourishing cities of the Islamic Golden Age, the old wisdom of Greece, Rome, Egypt, and beyond was carefully preserved, deeply studied, and gracefully expanded. Though this was an era often marked by hardship, it was also a time of profound commitment to healing, to learning, to translating the language of the earth into something eternal. Let us begin in Europe, where the cold stone walls of monasteries concealed lush, fragrant gardens, and where the hum of bees mingled with the gentle turning of parchment pages. It was within these sanctuaries that healing was kept alive, not only in practice, but in prayer. In the heart of medieval Europe, healing knowledge found refuge behind monastery walls. After the fall of the Roman Empire, it was the monks, dressed in simple robes, hands stained with ink and soil, who became the caretakers of herbal wisdom. Their work was quiet, steady, and sacred. Each monastery was like a seed of light, planted in the dark soil of a turbulent world. These places offered safety and sanctuary, and within them, the ancient teachings were preserved. The herbarium, or medicinal garden, was central to these sanctuaries. There, the monks grew plants not only to heal the sick, but to honor creation. Their gardens were filled with rows of fennel, thyme, sage, and marjoram, tended with care, watered by hand, blessed in silence. Each herb was understood for its spiritual and medicinal properties, each with its own song in the divine symphony of healing. Inside the scriptorium, monks spent long hours copying ancient manuscripts. By the flickering glow of candles, they translated, preserved, and illustrated the texts of Galen, Dioscorides, and Hippocrates, texts that might otherwise have vanished into the dust of history. These texts were illuminated, adorned with gold leaf and botanical illustrations, combining beauty and knowledge. Now imagine this: the low hum of Gregorian chant echoing softly through a cloister. A monk kneels in the garden, collecting hyssop to clear the lungs, or betony to soothe the nerves. He offers a quiet prayer as he cuts each stem. Back inside, another monk stirs a preparation of honey, vinegar, and rose petals for a cough remedy. Their work is both humble and holy. One of the most luminous figures of this time was Hildegard of Bingen, a Benedictine abbess, mystic, composer, and herbalist. Her text, Physica, compiled detailed insights into dozens of herbs, not just as physical remedies, but as living bridges between heaven and earth. She believed that herbs carried the greening power of life, viriditas, and that healing was a return to harmony with the divine rhythms of nature. She wrote of fennel for digestion, lavender for clarity, sage for longevity, and verbena for spiritual purification. But more than that, Hildegard's healing was musical, poetic, and rooted in sacred vision. She saw the natural world not as fallen, but as a cathedral. Her hymns and writings blended spiritual ecstasy with botanical insight. Her voice echoes even now, through gardens, through songs, through teas sipped beneath the stars. Beyond the monasteries, herbal medicine lived in the hands of wise women, midwives, and folk healers. Though often overlooked by history, these women were the lifeblood of healing in their communities. They passed down knowledge through oral tradition, story, and observation. Their teachings were based on the rhythms of the moon, the change of seasons, the cries of babies, and the quiet signs of plants. Picture a small thatched cottage, smoke rising from a stone chimney. Inside, a woman brews elderflower tea to break a fever. She massages a mother's belly with rose oil during childbirth. She walks barefoot to gather raspberry leaf, yarrow, and plantain, offering small thanks to the earth with every step. She speaks softly to the plants as she works, not as an act of superstition, but as an act of respect. Their knowledge was born not of books, but of breath, of seasons, of intimacy with the wild. Their healing was intuitive, ancestral, and, sadly, often persecuted. But still, it lived on, passed from grandmother to granddaughter, whispered in kitchens, taught in dreams. Books, like the Leech Book of Bald and the Herbarium of Apuleius, preserved countless remedies: horehound for coughs, comfrey for wounds, chamomile for grief. These texts are not just medical, they are spiritual maps of their time. They speak to a world where healing was inseparable from faith, where herbs grew in the shadow of crosses, and where wisdom grew in silence. Now let us travel south and east, where the warm winds carry the scent of saffron, rose, and citrus through bustling streets and serene gardens. Here, in the heart of the Islamic Golden Age, a flowering of science and soul occurred, a time when medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy flourished side by side. In cities like Baghdad, Cairo, Damascus, and Cordoba, knowledge was sacred, and healing was a noble pursuit. Herbalism was elevated to an art form, systematic, refined, and deeply rooted in both scientific inquiry and spiritual understanding. The centerpiece of Islamic herbalism is the towering figure of Avicenna, also known as Ibn Sina. His masterpiece, the Canon of Medicine, was a synthesis of Greek, Persian, Indian, and Arab healing traditions. It described the effects of hundreds of herbs with extraordinary detail and precision. This text remained a cornerstone of medical education for centuries. In his work, Avicenna spoke of rose petals to ease inflammation and cool the heart. He prescribed saffron to elevate the mood and lift the spirit. He praised ginger for its warming nature, to invigorate digestion and circulation. He used senna as a gentle purgative to cleanse and restore. For centuries, his canon was used in both East and West, translated into Latin, studied in medieval European universities, and cherished in Islamic hospitals. His vision of medicine was holistic, logical, and deeply human. In the great hospitals of the time, called bimaristans, herbal gardens were a central feature. Patients rested beneath fig trees, while physicians prepared remedies on site. Scribes sat in tiled courtyards, copying texts in graceful Arabic calligraphy. There were wards for different illnesses, spaces for music therapy, rooms for reflection. Healing was not rushed, it was graceful, and it was deeply connected to nature. Imagine now a quiet courtyard in Cordoba. The walkways are made of marble. A fountain burbles in the center, surrounded by citrus trees and fragrant herbs. A scholar walks slowly, plucking a sprig of basil for a patient. Nearby, a physician consults a scroll beside a shelf lined with jars of myrrh, clove, camphor, and henna. There is peace in this place. There is wisdom in every breath. The herbal traditions of medieval Europe and the Islamic world did not develop in isolation. They crossed paths through trade, translation, travel, and curiosity. Along the Silk Road, ideas moved as freely as spices. Scrolls passed from hand to hand. Translations flowed from Arabic to Latin, from Greek to Persian. Medicinal herbs like cinnamon, cardamom, aloes wood, and licorice traveled across continents, carried in satchels by traders and healers. Each culture enriched the other, not in conquest, but in communion. A healer in a French monastery might be using a recipe inspired by Persian texts. A physician in Baghdad might cite Hippocrates and Galen alongside local folk knowledge. In this great web of herbal wisdom, borders softened. What mattered most was the plant, its energy, its voice, its presence. It was a time of connection, curiosity, and deep respect. So let us pause now, in a place where candlelight and calligraphy meet, where herbs are pressed between parchment and prayers are whispered into mortar and pestle. Let us rest in a time when healing was sacred and medicine was poetry carved into stone, sung through the fields and brewed beneath moonlight. Let us breathe in the scent of lavender drying on windowsills and rose water sprinkled on temple steps. The herbs of the medieval and Islamic worlds still whisper to us. In every cup of tea, in every garden we tend, in every breath we take beside a growing leaf. They speak of care, of craft, of connection, of reverence and rhythm. So breathe deeply now. Feel the wisdom of these traditions settle around you like a soft cloak. You are not just listening to a story. You are remembering your place in it. You are part of the lineage. You are one with the healing. Let us go forward, gently. Let us go forward, listening. Let us go forward, with the blessing of those who came before. As we gently step out of the candlelit corridors of monasteries and the scroll-filled chambers of ancient healing centers, we find ourselves in a new chapter, a chapter still being written with each passing breath. We arrive in the quiet and powerful modern herbal awakening, a sacred unfolding that is both tender and unstoppable. This is not just a revival. It is a remembering, a reconnection, a restoration of the deep-rooted bond between human and herb. Though the world has changed, its pace quickened, its cities grown tall and loud, the voice of the plants has never gone silent. It has simply whispered in the shadows, nestled in the pages of forgotten books, carried in songs passed from grandmother to child, tucked within the folds of ritual and remembrance, waiting patiently for us to return. And now, we are returning. We are remembering. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, as industrialization swept across Europe and North America, medicine became a realm of machines, microscopes, and laboratories. Hospitals expanded into towering institutions. Factories churned out synthetic drugs. Apothecaries became pharmacies, and the artistry of herbal blending gave way to standardized pills, sterile packaging, and one-size-fits-all solutions. The shimmering glass vials of plant extracts, once infused with reverence and story, were replaced by chemical compounds whose names few could pronounce. For many in the Western world, herbal medicine was labeled outdated, quaint, even dangerous, a remnant of simpler, less enlightened times. The wisdom of plants, so long held in the hands of midwives, herbalists, and elders, was pushed to the margins of respectability. But even in exile it lived on. In small villages nestled in forested hillsides, in mountain cabins passed down through generations, in the kitchens of immigrants who carried seeds in their pockets and recipes in their hearts, and in the rituals of indigenous healers who never forgot their sacred duties, the flame of herbal knowledge never died. In rural Appalachia, folk herbalists gathered roots by moonlight and brewed teas from what grew wild. In African American communities of the South, granny midwives and conjure women preserved a powerful blend of African, Native American, and European herbal traditions. In the highlands of Peru, curanderos and curanderas mixed coca leaves with prayer. In the rice terraces of Bali, jamu tonics were prepared at dawn. In the vast steppes of Mongolia and the wind-carved valleys of the Middle East, elders kept their herbs close. Even when dismissed or actively suppressed by modern institutions, the plants remained. And so did the people who loved them. By the mid-20th century, a shift began to bloom, quietly at first, like a seed sprouting through concrete. In the aftermath of world wars, amidst the growing awareness of environmental degradation and a rising unease with the cold sterility of synthetic medicine, people began to look backward. They looked to the forests, to the gardens, to the past, and in doing so, they began to look forward. They began to seek the old ways, not out of nostalgia alone, but from a longing that pulsed deep in the soul, a hunger for authenticity, for reconnection, for healing that touched more than the body. What began as a whisper grew into a murmur, and then into a movement. Community gardens blossomed. Herbal fairs and plant walks sprouted across cities and towns. People shared recipes for fire cider and elderberry syrup. Stories, seeds, and songs were exchanged. Calendars once again marked full moons and equinoxes. It was a remembering not just of technique, but of rhythm, of belonging. New herbal schools opened their doors, offering teachings that bridged tradition and science. Apprenticeships formed. Herbal newsletters turned into journals and conferences. A collective breath was being taken, a breath that smelled of mint, calendula, and pine. Leaders emerged. Rosemary Gladstar, with her heart-centered approach, taught generations to love the plants like old friends. David Hoffman wrote of blending botany and biochemistry with earth-based wisdom. Juliette de Beracli-Levy wandered the world, gathering herbal knowledge from Romani, Bedouin, and rural folk, then sharing it with grace. These were not just teachers. They were flame keepers, bridge builders, storytellers. As the herbal movement expanded, so too did the realm of scientific validation. Researchers began to turn their gaze toward the plants that traditional healers had long revered. In university labs and botanical institutes, modern studies emerged to affirm what ancient traditions had long taught. Turmeric, rich in curcumin, was shown to reduce systemic inflammation and support joint health. Echinacea demonstrated the ability to modulate immune response and shorten the duration of colds. St. John's wort, containing hypericin, lifted mild to moderate depression and brightened darkened moods. Valerian root promoted deep, restful sleep without the grogginess of pharmaceuticals. Garlic, abundant in allicin, helped lower cholesterol and fight infection. Chamomile, beloved for its sweetness, eased digestive discomfort and soothed frayed nerves. Labs isolated chemical constituents, gave them names, tested their actions, and cataloged their side effects. But even as science caught up, herbalists gently reminded, a plant is more than its parts. It is a whole being, a living ally, an expression of place and time and energy. To work with plants is to enter into relationship, one that honors not only the body, but the emotions, the memories, the soil from which the plant grew, the hands that gathered it, and the intention with which it is offered. Now, picture a modern kitchen. The morning light pours through a curtain as a kettle whistles on the stove. On the windowsill, small jars hold sprigs of rosemary, lemon balm, and tulsi. Bundles of dried lavender hang overhead, swaying gently in a breeze. A book of herbal remedies lies open on the counter, its pages worn and dotted with splashes of tea. A mother brews a cup of ginger tea for a child with a cold. A father infuses calendula oil to soothe sunburn. A student stirs elderberry syrup with cinnamon and clove. These are not ancient reenactments. These are modern lives, rooted in ancient wisdom. In city apartments, herbalists tend mugwort in clay pots on sunlit balconies, their leaves brushing against window panes as morning light filters in. In quiet rural towns, community-supported herbal shares arrive with fragrant bundles of lemon verbena and nettle, wrapped like green gifts from the earth. Across the globe, students gather in virtual circles, guided by courses like those offered through the Multidimensional Natural Medicine Institute, learning the language of plants across time zones and cultures. Podcasts, like those shared on the Dimensions for a Natural Life YouTube channel, carry stories of herbal healing into ears and hearts, gently planting seeds of remembrance, one episode at a time. All around us, healing is quietly unfolding. In kitchens where hands stir steaming cups of chamomile and rose. In backyards where calendula glows golden beneath curious footsteps. On city balconies where pots of lemon balm sway in the breeze. In clinics where tinctures rest beside stethoscopes, bridging ancient and modern care. It does not always announce itself. Often, it moves like roots underground, quiet, steady, unseen. But it is happening. It is alive. And it is growing. This reawakening is not contained by borders. It is global. In India, the timeless wisdom of Ayurveda spreads its roots anew, offering ashwagandha for stress, triphala for digestion, and neem for purification. In China, traditional Chinese medicine finds its way into hospitals and wellness centers, offering acupuncture and herbal formulas refined over millennia. In indigenous communities across the Americas, a renaissance is unfolding, not of rediscovery, but of reassertion. Youth relearn their ancestral languages. Elders share teachings once whispered in secret, and ceremonies return to the land. Across Africa, Australia, the Arctic, and the Pacific Islands, plant knowledge is being honored anew. Herbal wisdom, once dismissed or commodified, is being reclaimed, and the call is clear: to collaborate without appropriation, to listen without imposing, to honor without extracting. Partnerships are forming between scientists and indigenous stewards, between herbalists and clinicians, between seed keepers and educators. These collaborations are not perfect, but they are sacred steps toward healing old wounds and forging new paths. The heart of the awakening. Ultimately, this modern herbal awakening is not just about plants. It is about presence, about deepening our connection to life itself. It is a call to slow down, to notice, to listen, to care. When we plant lavender in a windowsill pot, we are not simply growing a herb. We are creating a relationship. When we simmer rose hips into syrup for a loved one, we are practicing love as medicine. When we walk barefoot and whisper to trees, we are reclaiming a birthright of kinship. This is the awakening. Not a loud revolution, but a quiet remembering. Not a rigid doctrine, but a living, breathing practice. So let us rest here for a moment in this green stillness. Let us feel the presence of the ancestors in the leaves that rustle, the roots that dig deep, the flowers that bloom unseen. The herbs of ancient temples now grow in windowsills. The voices of herbalists past are echoed in your own heartbeat. The memory of the earth is not lost. It is alive in you. Breathe deeply. Feel the ground beneath you. Let your breath become slow and full. This moment, this very moment, is part of the awakening. Not because of what you know, but because of your willingness to be here, to listen, to care, to remember. Let us go gently now. Let the herbs guide your dreams. Let your breath be a bridge. Let the memory of lavender, rose, and cedar walk beside you. The plants are with you. The story continues. And you are part of it. And now, dear listener, we arrive gently, softly, reverently, at the final pages of this long and sacred journey. The pages turn not with urgency, but with the hush of wind through pine, with the soft settling of leaves in an autumn forest. We do not end. We rest. We pause in the great unfolding story of earth and healing and memory. We stand at the threshold, not of conclusion, but of continuation. A stillness between the breaths of time. A breath held in reverence. A pause blessed by the wisdom of countless generations. This moment is not a finale, but a sacred interlude. A space where the heartbeat of nature continues in rhythm with your own. You have walked not through fiction, but through a living memory. Through the green corridors of time. Through ancient forests and sunlit fields. Through sacred gardens and moon-drenched groves. Through temple corridors scented with resins and village hearths warmed by tea. Through scroll-lined chambers and silent firesides. Through story, through silence, through breath. You have traveled with the leaves and the roots, with the dreamers and the healers, with the wise and the humble. Across millennia, across cultures, across dreams, they have all spoken the same gentle, patient language, the language of the plants, the quiet knowing that moves through root and rain, through stem and star, the language of cycles, of blooming and withering, of return and renewal, the language that listens as much as it speaks, and which echoes through every leaf and every gesture of care. You have met companions along the way, fragrant, fierce, and familiar. The bold mint that clears the mind and lifts the veil. The golden turmeric, balm of flame, that soothes the fire within. The soft chamomile, gentle as a mother's hand brushing your brow. The sacred tulsi, the vibrant echinacea, the dreamful mugwort that opens the gate to inner realms, and the grounding ashwagandha, steady as the mountains. And still others, lavender that lulls the heart, lemon balm that quiets the storm, rose petals that soften sorrow, and calendula that wraps wounds in golden light. The shining elderberry that shields, the frankincense that sanctifies, the cedar that protects, the dandelion that endures, each with a gift, each with a song, each one a messenger from the green world, bearing stories and salves alike, each one an offering of presence and power. And you have walked among people too, people whose lives were deeply rooted in the sacred rhythms of earth and spirit. They whispered their prayers into branches. They stirred songs into soup. They sowed seeds in moonlight and gathered leaves with reverence. Their lives were poetry, lived in service to soil and sky. They were caretakers of balance, of blessing, of the in-between spaces where mystery resides. They wore wisdom like old cloaks, frayed by time but rich in memory, and they moved through life with reverence as their compass. From the prehistoric healer who knelt by moonlight with crushed leaves and song, to the priestesses of Egypt, anointing the sick in temples perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, to the sages of India meditating on the secret energies of herbs beneath ancient banyan trees, to the Taoist physicians of ancient China, brewing ginseng and reishi beneath the plum blossoms, to the philosophers of Greece and Rome, who saw herbs as food and medicine, as symbol and sacrament, to the women and men of the medieval world, monks copying texts, midwives easing birth, mystics dreaming through scent and ritual, to the indigenous elders by fireside, naming herbs with reverence, offering tobacco to the earth in gratitude, to the African sangomas, the Celtic bards, the medicine people, the grandmothers and foragers and forest dwellers who carried the green wisdom forward, to the teachers and students of today, rekindling the flame, planting new seeds in both garden beds and classroom hearts, to all who have tended this ancient thread, each holding a single leaf in a timeless bouquet of care. You have joined a lineage, not by blood, but by breath, not by name, but by attention, by willingness to listen, to remember, to return. The circle of herbal knowing is wide, welcoming, and open to all who walk gently. It asks for no credentials, but care, no doctrine, but respect, no proof, but presence. You are a link in a golden chain that stretches back through the dark soil of history and forward into the bright bloom of tomorrow. The story of herbal medicine is not merely a history, it is a rhythm, a spiral, a pulse. It is the heartbeat of humanity in harmony with the land. It is a song older than any monument, deeper than any doctrine. It does not ask you to believe, but to belong. It invites you to sit, to sip, to settle. It calls forth the healer in you, the listener, the tender of small growing things. It is a living, breathing conversation between soul and soil. And now, here you are, resting in its echo, in the afterglow of memory and myth, in the hush that comes before the dream. You are a tender note in an ancient melody, a moment in an eternal garden, a breath carried through ages, a spark of continuity in the great fire of remembering. There is nothing more to do. There is nowhere else to be. You are held. You are home. You are embraced by the same force that ripens fruit and opens blossoms. Perhaps tonight you will dream of a garden. Maybe it is a garden you've never seen before, yet it feels like you've always known it. Maybe there are stone paths beneath your feet, covered in thyme and lichen. Maybe there is a rosemary bush that you pass your hand across, feeling its memory rising in your chest. Perhaps bees drift lazily through lavender, and dandelions sway like tiny suns. Perhaps you hear a stream gurgling like laughter and song. Perhaps the garden breathes as you do. Perhaps you kneel beside a gentle stream. You cup your hands to drink. The water is cool, and it tastes faintly of mint. You notice the trees overhead are heavy with blossoms. The breeze carries the scent of lavender, of citrus, of something old and wild. You feel your spirit being gently unknotted. A stillness rises from the soil and wraps around your soul. A silence that sings. A quiet that speaks in the oldest language of all. You might find yourself sitting on a wooden bench beside an elder wrapped in wool. They speak not in words you fully understand, but in sounds that stir something in your bones. They name the herbs, one by one. Some you recognize, some you do not, but all feel familiar. Each name is a bell, each plant a memory calling home. They smile with eyes full of stars and hands full of seeds. Their voice is wind and water and memory. They are the voice of the land embodied. And in that dream, in that moment, you know, you belong to this green world. You always have. You are a leaf on the great tree of healing, a seed in the garden of memory, a student of the earth, forever learning, a thread in the living web, a breath in the great song of life, a keeper of something ancient, a vessel for remembrance, a candle relit, a root reawakened. Let your breath flow easily now. Breathe in the scent of cedar, of clover, of earth after rain. Breathe out the tension, the day, the noise. Breathe in the memory of blossoms, of sunlit gardens. Breathe out into stillness, into safety, into sleep. Let the air around you fill with the fragrance of healing. Let the darkness be kind and full of stars. Let each breath carry you deeper into rest, where the medicine of stillness works its quiet magic, where your body can restore itself without effort, without instruction, where your soul can wander freely, gently held by the roots of all you've heard tonight, where you are never alone, for the land itself watches over you. The stars cradle your dreams. The wind whispers lullabies. The night becomes a sanctuary. The herbs keep vigil at your side. This story, though coming to a close, is not ending, because the story lives in you. It walks with you. It blooms through your hands. It sings through your care. It lingers in your gaze, your touch, your breath. Tomorrow, or in a week, or in a dream, You may find yourself drawn to a flower growing beside the sidewalk. You may stop to notice a sprig of yarrow by a field. You may crush sage in your hand and breathe it in deeply, as if remembering an old friend. A part of you long buried begins to stir. The green thread has been picked up again. The song resumes where you left off. You may find yourself stirring honey and lemon balm into warm tea, not because you read it in a book, but because your body asked for it. You may wake with a sudden desire to plant something, a seed, a cutting, a thought, a prayer, a new beginning, a promise to tend, a remembering made real in action. And when that happens, smile, because you'll know the plants have spoken. They are always speaking. And now you can hear them again. The silence has become language, the invisible made visible, the forgotten remembered, the connection rekindled. This sleep is not only rest, it is initiation. This journey was not only knowledge, it was remembrance, a rejoining of the circle, a reclamation of wisdom, a soft unfolding of truth. So sleep now. Sink into the dark velvet of the night. Let the wind carry away what no longer serves. Let the herbs you've met tonight stand like silent sentinels around your bed, guarding your dreams, guiding your breath, healing you in ways unseen. Let them wrap around you like a lullaby made of leaves. Let their presence bless your rest. Let their whispers carry you gently into the depths of renewal. And when you wake, should you wish to continue this journey with the plants, exploring their gifts more deeply, more personally, let the Natural Life Starter Kit be your companion. Inside, you'll find healing herb charts, affirmation calendars, and sacred tools to support your body, mind, and spirit. It's a gentle guide for your path forward, a seed packet for your soul. Let the memories of distant gardens and elder voices settle into your bones. Let the stars witness your sleep. You are not alone. You are not separate. You are part of something whole, ancient, and alive. You are woven into the green fabric of the world, into a tapestry of healing that stretches across time and space. May your dreams be gentle. May your body rest. May your soul be watered with kindness. And may the wisdom of the plants rise within you, softly, slowly, surely, like spring after a long winter, like sun rising on a dew-covered field, like song returning to the wind, like a sprout pushing upward through rich soil. If you wake with the scent of lavender in your thoughts, or the image of wild thyme growing between stones, or the distant hum of a chant once sung in a temple or forest or field, know this: the plants remember you too. You are held. You are whole. You are home. Good night. And if this journey touched something deep within you, you're warmly invited to continue walking the green path with us. Like, follow, and subscribe to Dimensions for a Natural Life on YouTube for more herbal stories, healing wisdom, and soulful guidance. Your next step begins with a single breath and a single click.